Kwekwe, my name is Nadine St Louis. I'm Mi'kmaq, Acadian and Scottish. I originate from the territory of the Mi'kmaq people of the East Coast. I am a social and cultural entrepreneur. I have founded Sacred Fire Productions, an Indigenous arts organization dedicated to helping Indigenous artists be seen and include themselves in the cultural dialogue of Quebec and Canada. And I'm a strong believer in making room, creating space, and engaging the population in dialogue so we have a better understanding of our stories, where we come from, and Indigenous art doesn't come from somewhere else. If we lose it, we can never go somewhere else and get it. The stories come from here, the land that we are all walking on today, that we all share. And these stories have to be salvaged, have to be heard. And art is a platform that allows people to stop, breathe, take a minute, and learn about the diversity of our nations. In Quebec alone, we have 10 First Nations, and we have the Inuit nations. The people that live on this territory, very few know about it. It's not their fault. We have been excluded from history books. We have been excluded from cultural dialogue, from policies at government levels. And right now, in the time of reconciliation, the ground is fertile to put the seeds and grow a space that people can step into and learn about our Indigenous cultures and the beauty of the land they come from. Discussing the very touchy topic of cultural appropriation. Cultural appropriation affects groups that have been marginalized or have undergone systemic racism and have had no space to have a voice. So when we speak of the Indigenous worldview that has had no permission to exist because of colonial policies that made it illegal to have cultural practice, and we see for only approximately 25 to 30 years where we have room for emergence and reclaiming culture, still battling for recognition, professional acknowledgement, and equity. Now we have these obstacles: systemic racism, historical oblivion, like not being seen by anybody in our books and our policies. And then we have non-Indigenous people taking icons, whether it's the headdress, because we got to say it, Indigenous headdresses is very iconic to Indigenous people, and they turn it into a costume, or they turn it into a very mundane object. It destroys the sacredness. It destroys the story connected to the object. Every artifact, every object is encoded with a story, a tradition, and a mindset when it's created. Our people don't make things because they're pretty. Our people make things because they have a meaning. The eagle feather is something very sacred and very honorable. And to get one might take you 20, 30, 40 years to get one. And you'll often see the powwow dancers wearing them in their hair. Now, when I see that, I know that person has earned that feather, that feather represents sacredness. And when I see it on a headdress and someone dancing in a rave, they're ridiculizing the sacredness of the object, and they're negating the purpose or the story encoded in that object. Cultural appropriation is also when another culture, often a dominant culture, usually a colonial culture, takes something for the benefit of their profit. The Dreamcatchers, understanding the origin of objects. Dreamcatchers come from the Ojibwe people. And it was a grandfather that saw that his grandchild was struggling with sleep and said, if the spider can catch in their web what they need, what if the web was used to hang over the child to let go, to catch the bad dreams and only let the good dreams come in? The intentions, the mindset was good. It was done in a good way with a purpose. All our objects are made like that. The beadwork comes with stories. The symbols reflect the passage of your family from one territory to another, the influences of another nation that shared with you. Every symbol and every artifact that you can see in Indigenous communities comes from the land, comes from your grandmother, comes from the passing of one territory to another. And if there's no room to give space for that to be reclaimed, why would it not upset us that non-Indigenous people are being recognized by stealing? We have to look at the history. Colonial history is a history of appropriation. The land was appropriated, the language was appropriated, the culture was appropriated. It's time to make a stop to that and give room, acknowledgement, and space for sovereign cultural creation of the cultural rights and items that were taken away from them.